We know that during development, sleep is changing. So from infants, from babies to then adults, there are major changes occurring during development. And in our project, we are mainly focusing on the period before adolescence, because we know that adolescence is a major period for sleep patterns, but also for brain maturation. And sleep, in fact, is a real window on the brain maturation that is ongoing during adolescence. But we were particularly interested in exploring what was happening before this period, so during what is called school-age children period, so between 5 and 12 years old. And we found that there are different trajectories between girls and boys during this period. We knew that with age, first we sleep less, so the sleep duration is decreasing with age. And we also knew that during adolescence, there are major changes. So the first one is that we have less deep sleep. Okay, so our sleep is less deep as compared to when we are younger. And we thought that maybe we could see premises, early signs of this transformation before adolescence. So we recruited 61 healthy children, aged between 5 and 12 years old. And they spent one night at home with an EEG, so it is an electroencephalography, to record the night. And before that, during the evening, and then the next morning, there were cognitive assessments that were performed. And what we saw is that during this night, between girls and boys, children, there are differences. These differences are in fact regarding with age. So we have to really include the developmental aspects of these trajectories. So what we found is that there is a distinct trajectory difference between girls and boys. What does it mean? It means that girls, they have like an earlier pattern, more adults-like pattern of sleep compared to boys. So how have we seen that? Is that first girls, they sleep less with age, and they spend less time in the deepest sleep stage, which is called N3 stage, compared to boys. So boys, we see a flat trend compared to girls, where we see a decrease with age, so between 5 and 12 years old. We also see that the sleep spindles, which are typical of N2 and N3 sleep stages, become faster with age in girls. And again, this is more typical of adults because we have faster spindles compared to babies or infants. Whereas boys do not exhibit the same pattern. So again, it seems that girls really are on the way of brain maturation, and this is translated by sleep changes compared to boys. It does not mean that boys are not ongoing brain maturation, but it means that there are different trajectories, dynamics, that is influenced by gender and, in our case, by biological sex. To know and have more understanding of the typical development of sleep, and why it is really important is that, as you maybe know, during adolescence is the onset of most of the psychiatric disorders. So if you think about depression, about food disorders, about schizophrenia, all these psychiatric disorders, mental illnesses, have an onset during adolescence or late adolescence. And these psychiatric disorders are gendered influences. So we know that depression is mainly present in girls and around 13, 14 years old, compared to boys. For example, schizophrenia is more present in boys and it is later. Why these differences regarding the onset of these disorders is because of the puberty. Girls are starting their puberty before boys, and boys it is later. So the onset of psychiatric disorders is also depending on this puberty onset. And we know that sleep is really closely linked with depression, with these all mental disorders. So knowing how sleep is evolving with age and how it is different between girls and boys, it can help us preventing the onset of different sleep in mental illnesses during adolescence, depending on the gender. So if we know that girls have typical early changes of their sleep during school-age children, we can then, if some girls have different patterns before adolescence, we can maybe prevent them from developing depression or other sleep disorders and mental disorders compared to boys, which we know that is occurring later.